every single year. I mean, brilliant companies waste just absolutely millions expanding into new countries or launching these massive new projects.
Oh, yeah. Millions, sometimes tens of millions.
Right. And the wild part, it usually isn't because their core product is actually bad.
No, rarely.
It's because of this very specific, honestly, kind of toxic boardroom cocktail. It's a mix of corporate adrenaline, these overly optimistic spreadsheets, and a complete, utter illusion of actual evidence.
It happens so predictably. It's basically almost a law of corporate physics at this point.
Yeah.
The thrill of a new frontier, like a new market, it completely short-circuits the normal risk assessment faculties of otherwise incredibly smart executives.
It really does. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at this exact phenomenon and, more importantly, how you can actually stop it.
And we have some fascinating source material today to help us do that.
Exactly. Our source today is an internal reference and execution paper. It's called the UK2CH concept, and it comes from Tom Costro's Switzerland Market Entry Advisory.
Yeah, and what makes this paper really stand out isn't just the strategy itself. It's the format.
Right. They frame the whole thing as this business novella. It's a parable titled Test, Fly, Then Build.
Which is such a great title. The authors use this very strict aviation metaphor. They literally take the engineering principles used to design and fly aircraft and import them directly into how executives should make capital allocation decisions.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if you are listening to this right now and you manage a budget or a team, just think about the last time you pitched a new initiative.
Yeah, ask yourself, did you actually have external evidence that it would work?
Or were you just kind of running on internal confidence?
Yeah.
Act 1 of this parable sets up this exact tension. So picture an established, really successful B2B firm in the UK.
Right, and they've decided they're going to enter the Swiss market.
The boardroom is just buzzing. People are already debating, which city to sign a lease in. They're talking about hiring local sales reps, drawing up massive launch budgets.
Right. They are behaving as if success in Switzerland is just merely a scheduling issue.
Exactly.
And that scene perfectly captures the core pathology of market entry failure. The team knows their product sells incredibly well in London or Manchester.
Sure.
So they look at Switzerland, they see this wealthy European market, and they just assume their success will seamlessly translate. I mean, they completely confuse their internal confidence with external evidence.
But then the CFO speaks up. And the CFO just throws an absolute bucket of ice water on the party with one simple question.
It's a great moment.
They ask, what evidence do we actually have that Swiss buyers will buy this offer in its current form?
You can just imagine the air instantly leaving the room.
Oh, completely.
The source text diagnoses this exact moment by introducing what it calls the problem formula.
Right. The problem formula.
Yeah. The formula basically states that investment threatens to grow faster than the evidence that justifies it.
Let me map that onto my own experience for a second. It's like deciding to buy a bunch of custom, totally non-refundable furniture for a house you haven't even viewed yet.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
You are picking out drapes, and you don't even know if the roof leaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The budget for that theoretical Swiss office, the recruiter fees for those new sales reps, I mean, those numbers are multiplying on the CFO's spreadsheet right in front of them.
Yeah.
But the actual tangible proof that a Swiss company wants to buy their specific service, that hasn't grown by a single data point. The investment is totally outpacing the evidence.
I do want to challenge this from the perspective of an aggressive CEO, though. Because if you're always waiting for perfect evidence, doesn't your competition just beat you to the punch?
Well, sure, that's the fear.
Sometimes you just have to move fast and break things, right?
Moving fast is fine, but flying blind is negligence. I mean, the CFO isn't arguing against expansion here.
Right, they just want some certainty.
Exactly. The CFO is arguing for decision security. Because if it all goes south, the CFO is the one left holding the bag for millions in misallocated capital.
Good point.
So to solve this problem formula, the company realizes they can't just proceed with a standard launch. They need a completely new decision model.
And this is where the aviation metaphor kicks in.
It is. But notice how the paper uses the metaphor. It explicitly warns against using aviation as a quote-unquote decorative metaphor.
Right. A decorative metaphor being just like marketing fluff.
Exactly.
Like saying your new software update is rocket fuel for growth,
Right.
or calling your marketing plan a runway to success.
Yeah, it sounds super dynamic, but you could delete the phrase and the actual strategy remains completely unchanged. It's just a fresh coat of paint.
But the paper insists on a conceptual metaphor.
Yes, they are taking the actual causal structure of aerospace engineering and forcing the business to obey those exact same physical laws.
Which is wild.
I mean, in engineering, you don't design a new aircraft on a whiteboard, instantly manufacture a fleet of 500 planes, and just start selling passenger tickets.
Right. You would end up with a very expensive, very public disaster. So, configuration has to precede testing.
Yes.
And testing precedes flight. And flight precedes building the actual fleet.
That causal chain fundamentally changes how these executives evaluate their next move. The CEO can no longer just ask, hey, when is the big launch party in Zurich?
Yeah, the conversation totally shifts.
The entire board is now forced to ask, where are we in the flight testing process?
Which brings us to the first practical step of their model, the wind tunnel.
The wind tunnel.
So before this UK company commits to a single piece of permanent infrastructure in Switzerland, they have to put their commercial configuration into a wind tunnel to see if it even flies.
Right, and by commercial configuration, they mean their specific offer, the target market segment, their pricing structure, and their positioning.
Now, here is where I'm going to play devil's advocate again. Because the paper calls this wind tunnel phase the Switzerland market entry sprint. My immediate reaction to hearing sprint or wind tunnel in a corporate setting is that it's just, a heavily dressed up term for a bloated consulting workshop.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
You hire an agency, they spend 6 months doing generic market research, they survey 1,000 people, and they hand you a 100-page slide deck. Does this framework actually prevent that kind of analysis paralysis?
Actually, the framework actively attacks analysis paralysis. The text is incredibly rigid about the boundaries of this sprint, precisely because it cannot turn into an open-ended research project.
Okay.
Think about a real wind tunnel. It is a highly controlled, tightly constrained environment. This business sprint is bound to a maximum of 15 elapsed working days.
Wait, 15 days? That is absolutely nothing in corporate time.
It gets even tighter. Within those 15 days, it caps out at a maximum of 32 hours of advisory effort with a fixed upfront cost of 4,500 Swiss francs.
Okay, wait. Only 32 hours of actual work spread across 3 weeks.
Yep.
That sounds less like a sprint and more like they're just trying to keep the budget artificially small. I mean, how can you possibly test a massive market entry strategy in 32 hours?
By applying Parkinson's law.
The idea that work expands to fill the time allotted for it.
Exactly. The strict limits aren't just about saving money, they are a psychological forcing function. If you give a team 6 months to research a market, they will spend 5 months reading macroeconomic reports and, debating typography on the slide.
Yeah, that's so true.
But if you give them 32 hours over 15 days, they are forced to ruthlessly prioritize the most critical, foundational assumptions of their business model.
They really have to focus entirely on the physics of the deal. The text notes that a wind tunnel isn't built to transport passengers.
Right.
You aren't trying to generate immediate sales or close deals in this 15-day window. You are testing 3 specific commercial physics: lift, drag, and stability.
Let's break those down because they are crucial. Starting with lift.
Lift would represent buyer relevance, right?
Yeah.
In this B2B scenario, is there actually enough commercial pull in the Swiss market for this specific UK offer?
Precisely. Without lift, honestly, nothing else matters. A company might have a beautifully engineered product, but if the Swiss market doesn't perceive a burning problem that the product solves, the plane never leaves the tarmac.
Yeah, you're dead in the water.
The team has to figure out if anyone actually cares about the proposition before they even try to sell it.
And then we have drag, which represents friction and resistance.
Yes, and in international expansion, drag is often totally invisible until you hit it at high speed.
What kind of friction are we talking about?
It could be regulatory compliance differences.
Yeah.
Like maybe the UK company relies heavily on cloud infrastructure, but the Swiss target segment has strict data residency requirements and demands local servers.
Right.
Or it could just be cultural.
Oh, like the way a UK sales director aggressively pitches a solution. That might create massive cultural drag when presented to a very conservative Swiss financial institution.
Exactly. They might view that aggressive style as a total lack of credibility.
Which brings us to the third metric.
Yeah.
Stability. This tests the delivery boundaries.
Yes. How clear is the actual implementation? Do the Swiss buyers understand exactly what they are purchasing?
Right. Who does what?
Are the boundaries clearly defined regarding what the client's team is responsible for contributing versus what the UK company will actually deliver?
Got it. Because if a proposition lacks stability, a company might actually close a deal, but the resulting implementation will be chaotic.
Chaotic, unprofitable, and it will permanently damage the brand in that new market.
So this entire 15-day exercise requires a massive paradigm shift for those executives back in the boardroom. Because the traditional metric for success in a new market has always been, did we get leads? Did we generate pipeline?
Yeah, and the new success metric in this wind tunnel phase is radically different. The only question is, did management learn enough to justify the next investment?
That reframes everything. I mean, nobody dies in a wind tunnel.
Right.
If the fiberglass model shakes apart at a certain airspeed, the test wasn't a failure. The test did its job perfectly.
Right.
You found the fatal flaw while it was still cheap and safe to just sweep up the pieces and redesign the wings.
Exactly. The wind tunnel produced decision quality evidence.
So let's say you survive the wind tunnel. The model didn't break, but, a controlled room blowing manufactured air is very different from an engine performing at 30,000 feet.
Very different.
The paper doesn't just let you roll whatever survives the sprint straight onto a commercial runway. There's a rigid boundary between the wind tunnel and the open sky.
Yeah, the stage gate. To move forward, management must explicitly grant test flight clearance. And coming out of that 15-day sprint, there were really only 3 possible decisions.
Go, adapt, or no go. The adapt option is fascinating to me because the source text provides great context for this.
It does.
Let's say during the sprint, the team discovers that the strongest, most compelling marketing message they use back in London simply does not create any lift in Zurich.
Yeah, it just falls flat.
Or even worse, they find out that the specific job title they usually sell to in the UK has absolutely zero budget authority in a Swiss corporate structure.
Which happens all the time. And if they had just launched the traditional way, with a massive PR push and a fully staffed local office, discovering that target market mismatch 6 months in would be catastrophic.
That's the CFO's worst nightmare right there.
Exactly. But because they are at the test flight clearance gate, the decision just cleanly becomes an adapt.
They narrow their target segment, they rewrite the value proposition to address the specific Swiss objections they uncovered, and they adjust that commercial configuration.
They tweak the model before they fly it. And this stage gate process highlights one of the most profound psychological insights in the whole framework: the principle of falsification before validation.
Oh, validation is absolutely the default corporate setting. I mean, when a team pitches a massive project or a new market entry, their egos are totally tied to its success.
Completely tied to...
Their entire posture is built around proving their initial instinct was right. They hunt for literally any data point that validates their predetermined go decision.
It is confirmation bias on an industrial scale. They want to be heroes, so they only look for reasons the expansion will succeed. But the test, fly, then build model, demands the exact opposite. It demands falsification.
Meaning, the goal of the 15-day sprint is to actively try to break your own idea. You are searching for weaknesses, you're hunting for objections, and you're trying to prove that the market won't buy it.
And it takes immense corporate bravery to operate this way, but just think about the protection it offers. A no-go decision or a major adapt decision at this stage is not a failure of leadership.
No, not at all.
It is the absolute pinnacle of good governance. It actively protects the company's capital and its reputation.
Like, if I'm reporting to the board, it is infinitely more credible to say, hey, we pressure tested our assumptions. The data showed the Swiss market dynamics wouldn't support our current offering, so we are stopping.
Yeah, that makes you look like a genius compared to, well, we spent £2 million on a Geneva office and realized 6 months later that nobody wants our software.
Right. It gives executives a safe, defensible, and honestly mathematically sound way to pause or pivot without losing face.
Yeah.
The process totally separates the ego from the outcome.
Exactly.
So let's follow the parable into Act 3. The team gets their test flight clearance. Maybe they got a straightforward go, or maybe it was a qualified adapt based on what they learned. Now they move out of the wind tunnel and into the 90-day Switzerland business development mandate.
The controlled test flight.
The parameters completely change here, right? They are leaving the simulator. Now there are real crosswinds, unexpected competitive weather, actual turbulence.
Yeah.
But the discipline of the aviation metaphor still totally dictates their actions.
It does. And the key word here is controlled. A test flight is not an invitation to joyride.
Right.
The text is remarkably clear on this point. The 90-day mandate is not an open-ended sales execution phase, and it does not grant traditional country manager authority to the team on the ground.
So if they aren't just aggressively trying to hit sales quotas, what are they actually doing for 3 months?
They are exposing the revised commercial configuration to genuine market conditions. They are engaging real buyers, navigating complex account hierarchies, and encountering actual gatekeepers.
Okay.
The primary purpose of these 90 days is not to manufacture empty activity just to look busy to the board. The purpose is to generate flight data.
Flight data. I love that term. Basically, what is the market actually telling us when we push past the theoretical and ask them to commit time, resources, or budget?
Exactly. Are the sales cycles moving at the expected speed? Are the objections the ones we anticipated back in the wind tunnel? Or are new systemic blockages suddenly appearing?
There is a brilliant, just unforgiving line in the source material regarding this phase. It says, more outreach cannot compensate for an unclear proposition.
It is a devastatingly true observation. I mean, if a pilot is flying an aerodynamically unstable plane, throttling the engines and flying faster won't make it stable.
No, it will just make the eventual crash a lot more violent.
Precisely. If your flight data shows that the Swiss market is fundamentally rejecting the offer, like maybe the pricing model is totally incompatible with local procurement standards.
You don't solve that by hiring 10 more outbound SDRs to make cold calls.
Exactly. Pumping more money into top-of-funnel marketing doesn't fix a broken core proposition. You have to look at the data.
This 90-day boundary really ensures the CFO's original mandate is respected. The investment is finally growing, sure, but it is strictly tethered to a 90-day timeline, and its sole purpose is to buy the external evidence required for the final decision.
Which brings us to the climax of the parable.
Right. The 90 days wrap up. The test flight lands, the engines cool down, the board convenes one last time. They have all the flight data spread out on the table in front of them, and they must make the ultimate call. The fleet decision.
Yes. Do they commit the heavy capital? Do they build the infrastructure, hire the permanent teams, and officially launch the fleet?
The authors of the concept enforce a very strict narrative rule for this final act. They call it the open-ending rule.
And this rule is what really separates a genuine business methodology from, snake oil consulting.
The rule basically dictates that the story must be open in its market outcome, but totally closed in its decision process. When I read that, it honestly stopped me in my tracks.
It's powerful.
There is absolutely no guaranteed success story baked into this model. The text doesn't promise that if you follow these steps, you will effortlessly conquer the Swiss market and double your revenue.
No.
There are no guaranteed client meetings, no guaranteed qualified leads, and certainly no guaranteed sales.
Because promising guaranteed market success in a complex B2B environment is just intellectually dishonest. Variables change, competitors react, macroeconomics shift.
Yeah, you can't control the weather.
Exactly. What the stage gate model does guarantee is a defensible, evidence-based decision process.
At the end of the test flight, the board looks at the data, and they are presented with 5 distinct options. They can continue, adapt, partner, build, or stop.
And those 5 options represent the actual reality of business. Continue means the evidence supports scaling up. Adapt means another pivot is required before scaling.
Makes sense.
Partner might mean, well, the data shows the market is viable, but building direct distribution is just way too slow, so a local channel partner is required.
Okay, and build.
Build means acquiring a local asset to speed things up.
And then there is stop. They can just ground the plane, pack up the data, and literally just walk away.
Right. And let's connect this back to the very beginning, to that boardroom hype and the CFO's dread. The entire goal of this test, fly, then build framework, was never to blindly force a launch. The goal was to systematically reduce uncertainty.
Piece by piece.
Exactly. The framework didn't magically eliminate all risk. That is impossible in business. But it reduced the uncertainty piece by piece, gate by gate, until the massive investment of a fleet decision could be mathematically, logically, and strategically defended.
So if the flight data clearly shows that the Swiss market is hostile to the product, then choosing stop is an unbelievable victory. It isn't a failure.
Not at all.
You just saved the company millions of pounds, years of wasted operational effort, And the massive public embarrassment of retreating from a failed international launch.
It radically reframes stopping. It elevates it from a perceived failure of execution into a highly successful, evidence-driven management outcome.
Yes.
You tested the physics, you flew the prototype, you realized the aircraft wasn't fit for the route, so you chose not to build the fleet. That is what world-class executive leadership actually looks like.
So if you are listening to this right now, how does this apply to your world? Whether you are looking at cross-border expansion, maybe rolling out a new software platform to your company, or even just pitching a massive internal restructure to your boss.
Yeah, are you demanding a massive budget for a fleet before you've even built a wind tunnel?
Are you and your team confusing your own internal enthusiasm with actual real-world evidence?
The true value of the test, fly, then build framework is that it forces you to pace your ambition. It creates a structure that ensures your investment of time, money, and reputation never outpaces the external evidence that justifies it.
It is such a clarifying mental model. Here, before you buy the custom furniture, verify the house has a roof. Test the commercial configuration first. Gather your flight data.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over, especially regarding how we manage people.
Oh, this is a great point.
We've discussed how this stage gate model redefines success, shifting it from simply generating immediate sales to generating decision quality evidence.
Right.
But consider the corporate cultures most of us actually work in. We throw launch parties, we ring sales bells, and we hand out massive bonuses when a team pushes a new product into the market, even if that product is fundamentally flawed and eventually bleeds the company dry.
Right. We reward the act of taking off, regardless of whether the plane is actually stable.
Exactly. But if a team uses a disciplined wind tunnel approach to discover a fatal flaw early, if they have the bravery to make a no-go decision that actively protects the company's capital from a disastrous launch, shouldn't those project managers be the ones we celebrate?
Absolutely.
If we truly value external evidence over internal confidence, shouldn't we be financially incentivizing our teams for successfully discovering a failure early rather than just blindly rewarding the sheer act of launching?
Now that is a profound culture shift. Just imagine a company that pays a bonus to the team that proves an idea shouldn't happen, keeping the plane safely on the ground when the weather is bad.
Because sometimes the most profitable and strategic decision you can possibly make is the one not to fly at all.